The Symphony of Canterlot, Chapter 20, Al-Azif. Canterlot Royal Hospital, 6:10 p.m. Me and Mary just finished getting patched up, along with 7 or so injured but still living members of Henry's gang. Mary was right, in that the bullet didn't reach very deep. Her internal organs were very much still intact. I got the bullet out of my shoulder, but the nurse told me that the injuries were healing a lot faster than they should have, and that the bullet hole would just scar tissue by morning. Celestia had set the sun, and Luna had raised the moon some good 9 minutes ago. Me and Mary were sitting in the same hospital room, thinking of our next move. What we dealt with back there isn't in my personal study. I should know, I've read every book in it twice. There must be something on that thing that we witnessed back there. She looked at me from her own hospital bed, patting the bandages on her lower belly.
Yes, that was especially strange. Henry said that the Thule had brought it, but that they lost control over it. You think that it was some sort of golem or chimera?
I answered back. No, not likely. It seems too complex for it to be that, and golems lack the intelligence and free will to rebel. Maybe a chimera, but those creatures are patchworks. What we saw there was a highly versatile organism, perhaps capable of reproducing. That one was destroyed, but how many more are there? Do the Thule keep a stockpile of those creatures? Those are questions that need to be answered. She sat up and cracked her neck. She groaned with a pained expression of dealing with her still healing flesh and skin.
Maybe, but what about what else we need to do?
Get the names of all those Thule equestrians. Bring about at least their attempts at killing us as evidence to Celestia to justify Luna's contact with me to destroy the Thule, and finally hunt them all down. She sighed.
That sounds hard.
I raised an eyebrow at that and looked at her. Well, it wasn't like our profession were ever easy, sweetheart. So, you want dinner? I'm buying. She got off her bed and trotted towards the door of the hospital room, swaying her flank in such a tantalizing manner that I had to remember that she wasn't in any condition to fool around. She looked back at me with that sort of smile that just melts you away.
I might just take you up on that. I better go find what is left of my things, though. I think that the nurses still have them.
As soon as she opened the door, though, 3 Baltic, or bat ponies, to you uncultured and racist imbeciles, nocturne guards, and Her Majesty Princess Luna were already at the door. They invited themselves in, and the nocturne waited outside, and Luna faced both me and Bloody Mary with the grimmest of expressions.
We need to speak of something that involves the direst of circumstances.
Canterlot University Library, Arcana Wing, 7:05 p.m. We went into a place unknown to even Celestia, a secret wing of the library of Canterlot University, hidden away under the university's library's basement level. It was filled with tomes, ancient and strange, tablets of unknown origin, and bookshelves of creaking oaken wood. The books were behind zigzagging iron bars and iron chains with welded locks bearing a similar symbol, a branch-like symbol, to the one etched in the sword I tied to my back. The electric lighting was dim, and to my surprise, no guards of any sort. Her Majesty had already told us how she came upon that information. She had tortured a survivor of an attempted assassination attempt to her bedchambers. Though, it wasn't an assassination attempt from what she had the poor imbecile confess. It was worse. The 7 enchanted spears were imitations of the old Norse god Odin's legendary Gungnir, and with them, they sought to take control of her while in her sleep. He confessed that he was Sergeant Flamel of the Unicorn Royal Guard, and that the whole of the officers in it was in the Thule Society as soon as they reached adulthood, their families inducting them into it as part of their tradition. He didn't know who the Grandmasters in the Old World were, but he said that the only Grandmaster left in Equestria was our Pregio Philharmonic himself. He had sacrificed the rest of Nightmare Moon's body and had the Unicorn Royal Guards that were Thule, like him, armed with foreign weapons and to pledge their allegiance to him. Arpeggio was working on a hidden project that not even the Unicorn Royal Guard officers knew themselves. But he also confessed after further pain from Princess Luna that Arpeggio, through the convincing of his witch wife Green Teeth, had been using the grimoire known as the Al-Azif to use magic from beyond, as he put it. Princess Luna, in her infinite wisdom, decided to bring me and Bloody Mary along just in case anything unexpected happens. Truth be told, I had heard legends of the Al-Azif. It was dreaded among occultists like myself. Considered something indomitable and capable of summoning powers incomprehensible and unfathomable. If the Thule had been using it, then we figured we had better get to it and glean information on how to undo what it had wrought on this world. It was like being flanked by the three Nocturnes, and in front of me was Princess Luna, Bloody Mary, and finally the head librarian of Canterlot University, who complied with our request at the threat of imprisonment. Eventually, we just reached a vault, an iron door. He placed a key in it and then galloped away for all of us as quickly as his legs could carry him. Princess Luna looked back at me.
Folklore, thou first.
I complied and entered the room. It was a blank reinforced concrete room. It was symmetrical, with no distinguishing features except for a single pedestal holding a rather compact-looking tome. It was no larger than my head and about as thick as 2 bricks. It was bound by worn equine leather, and I approached it, then the door behind me shut with a resounding slam. The tome opened, its pages quickly turning on their own, until they stopped midway, and then I looked at it. Its strange and incomprehensible characters written in what I could very well tell was long ago dried equine blood, and it started glowing a sickly yellow, and then blank. Inside the Necronomicon rune. I slowly opened my eyes. I was on the floor, still wearing my long black overcoat. I then felt a splitting migraine and nausea. I heard banging on the door from outside, and I quickly galloped hastily towards it and opened the iron door. Then I vomited a thick yellow slime that I shot out of my mouth onto the floor in front of the Nocturne, Princess Luna, and Bloody Mary. I continued expelling it, all for about 10 seconds until I collapsed onto my knees and I looked up at them with my groggy eyes still trying to catch up with my mind. I said the following to them. "What have they done?" Chapter 21, The Ascended. And move we did. Luna and I took the lead with Mary and the Nocturne Guard close behind us, covering our flanks and the back. We all, with exception to Princess Luna, had our weapons drawn. I had my snub-nosed revolver and Hyborian blade, as Luna actually referred to it back in the hospital, both floating to my sides as I telekinetically held them for hasty use. Mary had a stiletto dagger in her mouth with a Germanian automatic rifle strapped to her back, while the Nocturne had their enchanted lightning spears charged up and ready to fire. We kept a careful pace, and we kept our senses as high pitch for anything unusual, especially me. We expected the university library to be empty at that hour, and it was, but here was the problem. The lights, they were off. Normally, some lights are left on, and a security guard is left near the library. This, of course, is based on me assuming that Canterlot University ran similarly to the university I studied in Athenia University. And since both Athenia University and Canterlot University were pretty prestigious universities, I considered that to be a possibility. But here's the thing, though, it felt empty. It became more apparent when we left the library in formation that something was coming, and as we moved through the open fields between the building of the large campus, there was no wind blowing. No sounds in the distance coming from the city. No sounds from crickets or owls that are native to the area either. Nothing. Not even a single light was on either. No lampposts, all windows were dark as the night, only the stars and the full moon were giving any illumination that night. None of that is a good sign. It was as if the world was laying, waiting for something that even the very forces of reality fear. We continued trotting. We were all on the edge. A stillness like that wasn't natural. It was usually an indication that something was amiss in the natural order, something the animals felt spooked about them, and something that either took away or made aware of all the ponies to stay away. And then, we saw them clad in golden robes with their faces hidden away in inexplicable shadows, making me unable to see any sort of feature. 3 ponies whose ethereal presence was non-existent in any other part except, ironically despite the blindness I suffered to their features, their faces. Their faces began to glow a gold in a frequency of energy I recognized too well. Ether-formed plasma. I instinctively jumped to the right flank and rolled to get some extra distance and finally pulled my snub-nosed revolver, aiming up with the one to the far left and pulling back the hammer, all in a single series of fluid motions. Princess Luna raised an ether construct, a barrier shaped like a round Celtic iron shield, but of the color of the translucent blue of her aura. It was 3 times her size and was shielding Mary and the rest of the Nocturne Guard. They formed a spearhead formation with the one in the center stepping, or rather floating quickly forward, and all fired 3 streams of EF plasma at the group and hit 3 separate parts of the shield that Princess Luna manifested. And, as the construct was made with iron in mind, it began to quickly melt in 3 separate sections, one in the bottom left, another at the top, and another in the center, forming craters of molten ether and a shield that was only a couple of seconds about to be pierced. I fired 3 rounds in rapid succession to the golden-robed pony at the front of the spear. 3 yellow tentacles, practically faster than I could follow, appeared out of the face and grabbed something in midair. I could even see the small shockwaves at the tips of the tentacles that indicated that whatever they caught was going at supersonic speed. Then to my horror, they opened, letting drop the perfectly intact 44-round bullets I fired. Luckily, that got them to stop before they could reduce Princess Luna's construct to molten ether iron. And then 3 looked at me. But then to my horror, and what I really could catch with my peripheral vision, 3 out of the 4 Nocturne Guard escorts took off into the air, and 2 tried to flank by the left side of the spearhead formation, and 1 by the left. Mary, Princess Luna, and I at once yelled at them. Poor bastards didn't even know what hit them. The ones attacking the left fired their lightning spears only for the electric shocks they fired to be dissipated upon contact with one of the golden-robed ones. In that instant, one flew, somehow still completely covered in its robe, up front to one of the Nocturne Guards and fired an EF plasma stream and melted the Baltic's head right off. While at the same time, a tentacle emerged from its face and crisscrossed and ripped the wing of the other one, accompanying him as both bodies fell. And I saw the one living scream in agony as his blood sprayed from the mangled stump that was his right wing. Not soon after, I heard both the screeching of steel and the ripping of flesh and bone as I quickly looked to the right to see the guard that tried to flank the right ripped in half. Not just his flesh, but his armor, as if it was naught but mere tissue paper. I looked in horror as the robed pony did that deed and had both halves in separate sickly yellow tentacles as it was covering its victim's blood as more blood spilled from the legs and bottom torso. The deceased face contorted and it's bug-eyed, with a mouth agape as if trying to scream but incapable of doing so. It all happened so fast, no more than 7 seconds, and almost half of our group was nothing but mangled body parts. A headless armored corpse with a catheterized neck, and a currently bleeding to death one-winged Nocturne Guard trying to hide the fact that he is still alive. Then I heard the galloping, and an airship above our heads, followed by the fall of rope between what was left of us and the golden-robed ones. 6 Thule soldiers, naturally all unicorns, came down to the ropes armored, and telekinetically wielded their Germanian automatic rifles. They began firing figuratively from their hips as they came down, and they at first started firing in the general direction of the golden-robed ones, but then as soon as they noticed us, they fired our way. Luna, in half the time it took to blink, teleported in a flash of lightning to the Nocturne Guard, and while she avoided the fire, once she got next to them, she started receiving the rifle fire. About 5 shots grazed her, about 4 hit her left back leg, and 3 her right foreleg, with the expected sounds of the ripping of flesh and shattering of bone that one expects with that. She cried out in pain. The look of the blood splatter that was spilled from her flesh was almost surreal. It's rare to see a demigod bleed, and in all honesty it brought the attention of just how much technology had changed the rules of facing a monster and divine beings. We mortal equines are actually pretty frightening ourselves, and how we can create ways around our own fragility and have the callous arrogance to fight and then even supplant our former predators out of their place in the food chain. Wouldn't have it any other way, if it wasn't for the fact that it was perhaps the greatest lie in world history.
Devilry!
She naturally yelled in pain. That's not exactly something one forgoes, even with regenerative abilities. Like her, and truth be told, I was surprised she was still standing with that many holes in her legs. But then she quickly teleported to a nearby neoclassical building, probably the faculty offices to our right, with her injured steadfast tin soldier, bit her tongue, and I heard as the ether discharges were pushing out of the bullets and her flesh and bone rapidly healed. Well, I had already activated my trinket, and had already done my best to move forward and avoid the automatic rifle fire, but even then, I think I got about 10 grazes, and I definitely felt at least 5 holes in my back. I turned off my nerves, an old trick that I mastered after I came back to Equestria after the Sheba Gallic War, but that I ironically had to be fully sober to use. It didn't change the fact that the damage was there, and that I probably was leaving behind a trail of my blood around no matter how invisible I appear to be. Then, they reached the ground and I heard more come into the open common areas of the university, coming down from the airship that I heard was currently flying away, starting to engage the golden-robed ones. And I heard them drop the clips and start to reload, and I let my adrenaline wash through my system, and I unsheathed my Kurdish dagger. I was already in between them, and I went all out. I proceeded to quickly slit the throat of the one to my left, and he couldn't yell, but he fell to his knees. The crimson blood splatter across my face and the right forehead told me that he was as good as a corpse. Two of them pulled their parabolum pistols, and I disengaged my trinkets, and then they aimed for my skull and horn, where I quickly hit the one to my right, aiming at my horn with an ether-charged elbow strike lightly above the right ribcage, hitting some nerve endings connected to the right forehoof, causing him to fire and shoot the one at my 10 o'clock slightly above his left eye, blowing his brains out, while I pulled in closer before the momentum could take him and shoved the pistol he was holding with his right forehoof to the mouth of the guy whose body I used to kill him by pulling the guy slightly with my telekinesis to make sure that it would happen again, which I telekinetically squeezed that forehoof, causing it to squeeze the trigger and kill the guy. As soon as the bodies dropped, I took their parabolum pistols and telekinetically wielded them both as I resheathed my Kurdish dagger. The other three reacted on instinct and pulled their own parabolum pistols and tried to fire from the hip, only for me to telekinetically take one of them that was wearing a mask and slightly heavier armor by pulling on his industrial armor and used him as a shield and let him take the brunt of his squad mates reckless from the hip firing. And I could hear, as the bullets went through the steel armor but lodged themselves in the flesh, that he was a she, and I heard her pained cries. The armor didn't exactly allow me to see her feminine figure, and I threw her aside as I fired from both the telekinetically lifted parabolum pistols and shot both of their horns off, and as they were using them to lift their Germanian automatic rifles while trying to reload them, their horns backed up the ether and their heads exploded like rotten pumpkins filled with nitroglycerin. Well, only with blood, brains, and bone instead of pumpkin pulp, which all spilled over me, and over my face, and my overcoat. The armored dual unicorn mare that I had thrown aside came at me with a Germanian combat knife, and I dropped my guns and pulled out my Kurdish dagger. I wanted to see the face underneath the mask after all, no need to render it unrecognizable. She slashed at me from the left as I parried the strike, and used my right forehoof to grab her masked helmet off her face, and I could see a yellow unicorn mare with a mint green shortcut mane. She then stabbed at me, and I used that helmet with my left forehoof to block the strike, and then I let it go and gave her a left hook to the chin, hoping that it would knock her out, but it did no such thing. She only got angry and yelled at the top of her lungs with her horn aglow, only for me to forward and stab my Kurdish dagger through her mouth until the blade came out the back of her skull in a single fluid motion. Her body quickly got limp, dropping her rifle and Germanian combat knife, and I was going to remove the Kurdish dagger carefully, but then around 7 sickly yellow tentacles went through her armor and it forced me to remove the Kurdish dagger forcefully, forcing her front teeth to pop out and spilling more blood upon my face. The golden-robed one tore through that mare's corpse vertically through the center with the sounds of the ripping of flesh, breaking of bones, and tearing of steel that I recognized so well. I came to face it, and I quickly saw that the golden-robed one had no face but instead an orb-shaped portal to an unknown realm of stars underneath its apparent horn that seemed to belong to a pitch-black unicorn or a thin, nearly skeletal complexion. I was then pushed aside by what I could smell as the feminine but strong perfume of Bloody Mary as she stood on her back legs holding 2 Germanian automatic rifles with her stiletto on being held in her mouth. Her trench coat was wide open and the western winds were making it wave as if it was a flag, giving me a view of her blonde tail and a large brick-red ass, something that I could view even as I was at her left side. And she fired wildly from the automatic rifles at the golden-robed one, which spawned a myriad of uncountable sickly yellow tentacles from its face portal, as they moved faster than even my eye could see, stopping and even deflecting the rifle bullets, forming sparks into the air. Then I saw Princess Luna come down in a bolt of lightning from the sky, between them pushing back the tentacles and the shockwave and causing Mary to lose her hoofing and fall to the ground barely holding onto the rifles. This formed a heated, scorching crater in the dirt, and the university cobblestone crisscrossing paths that led to the building to building. Princess Luna was bare. She at some point had taken off her royal regalia, chest piece, black stone tiara, and silver shoes, and, well, they were just gone. Her literal star-spangled mane tied in a bun to prevent it from obscuring her vision. She then telekinetically sent a massive shockwave launching the golden-robed one into the air, and for a moment I caught a glimpse of the other 2 golden-robed ones ripping and shooting EF plasma streams at the Thule soldiers, shredding and melting them, steel armor and all. Princess Luna then looked back to us, her wounds seemingly healed, and then she flew with great speed and grabbed us both, teleporting away with both of us. The tunnel of light one sees during teleportation is strange and makes me somewhat uneasy. The geometries are hard to identify and often brings me nausea. We materialized inside what appeared to be an electrically unlit office space. The desks of what appeared to be the faculty along with various comfortable-looking swine leather furniture with brass accents and a solid varnishing mahogany floor with scorpionian carpets scattered about. Pretty much what you'd expect to see of an expensive and prestigious university in the second wealthiest city in Equestria, the capital, and one of the wealthiest cities in the world. I then proceeded to soil with my blood-mixed vomit, particularly the mahogany floor. Truth be told, I was in no position to control myself, but I felt no remorse about it after all. I've been through, and the general attitude of Canterlot's upper crust. The city could kindly kiss my ass and rightly fuck off. I tried wiping my mouth, but I just stained my face with more blood. Not mine, but... well, it's still annoying. Speaking of my own blood, I was still bleeding on that floor too. Less naturally, but I also felt my nerves again. It was painful. Nausea that was caused by the teleportation was creeping up because I was stupid enough to keep my eyes open during it, and it was creeping in again. Ugh, bloody fuckery. This is something I'm gonna have to get used to. I then slapped my face to try and get a grip and get myself back into the fight. Before concluding this video, I want to give a big shout out to my very kind donators. Yoshi Super Saiyan 2, Peter Coulthard, Nicholas Springthorpe, Dospo, David D. Sanchez, Dwight Cornell, Gaggy, Starlight Glimmer, Trey, Pokekiller Zach, Soul Dragon, Dak Britton, and Joe Piercy. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.